Okay, welcome to another weekly flow here at Flow Academy. And today we're talking, Kevin, about exactly what people don't want to talk about. Not everybody,
Money.
but certainly a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to talk about money.
I want to
Uh,
have it. I want to have it, but I don't want to talk about it.
exactly. I want all the things it does for me, but I don't want to know how to manage it or take care of it. I hope it just keeps coming my way, right?
Right.
So we're going to get into a little bit of counting the money, because really this is where the rubber meets the road on being able to, have some independence and some peace of mind around money. If you're not counting it, you really don't know, what you don't know, right?
That's right.
So purpose of this class is to have a handle on all things money. We're going to show you a P&L that we use, a personal budget, and then get in a little bit into savings and at the kind of some minimum savings accounts and some spending towards your savings. And then also just helping you understand what net worth looks like, because a lot of people don't even know what that formula is. Okay.
And a lot of this comes to the fact that we sometimes as agents are going through our day and don't realize that we are actually the CEO of our own little company, the president and the financial person in all of these things. And the finance side, for some reason, often gets put to the side. And it's so important as a business owner to really understand where your finances are, what your spending is, what your income is, and how all of that is put together.
Exactly. And this does fall under the category, we're always talking about that we're in charge of kind of three things: relationships, negotiating deals, and managing the team. And part of managing the team is managing the money, right? And it is easy because a lot of us didn't come from a business background. We don't know how any of these things work. We know that when we put a house in contract, that hopefully there's going to be a big check at the end. Big being a relative term, and it kind of gives us a false sense of that. Okay, I got a check coming, and then even within the context of that, we go, oh, good, I got a check coming, so therefore I don't have to do as much lead gen. I don't have to pay that much attention, and it's kind of a false sense of security. But this picture here is what a lot of us do when it comes to money, burying our heads in the sand, just like an ostrich, which, as it turns out, is a myth. We found out yesterday. Ostriches don't actually bury their heads in the sand, because we were curious about this.
But we might. But
we might. At the end of the class, you'll know the importance of counting the money and how to do it. And so we're called Flow Academy. Everything we're doing is towards being in flow. And a big part of being in flow is having an idea of where you stand with money, even if that means that you aren't standing on the solid ground that you thought you were standing on. At least as a baseline, knowing where you stand is going to be important to going towards where you want to stand when it comes to money. The bigger problem, going back to the other slide, is burying your head in the sand and just hoping that everything works out when it's time for you to do something with your money, rather than really having an idea of where your money is at. Okay, so do you know your net worth? This is a really important number. The net worth has everything to do with your ability to do the things that you want to do down the road, whether that's retirement, vacations, helping your kids out, giving to other people, making contributions to your favorite charity or your spiritual place, or helping out a relative. If you don't know what your actual net worth is, it's really challenging to have a sense of, can you do that or not? The way you figure out your net worth is really, really simple. You take all of your assets, you subtract all of your liabilities, bada bing, there's your net worth. So what is an asset? An asset includes all of your bank accounts, your 401ks and your IRAs, or any other qualified retirement account. It could be stock, it could be cash. The home that you live in is, whatever equity you have in there, and we're going to subtract that out, the liabilities in a second, but that's part of your overall net worth. If you have investment properties, part of your net worth. Any other quantifiable assets. So if you have, things that have value, art, anything that can be quantified, that's all part of your assets. Liabilities are anything like any kind of debt, consumer debt, credit cards, car loans, mortgage debt, college debt, any other debt you can think of. You owe a guy named Jim 100 grand. I'm not pulling that out of the air. My friend Jeremy, who I talk about all the time, at one point owed a guy named Jim 100 grand. He borrowed 100 grand from him. That's a liability. So you subtract the two, and then you've got your personal net worth. Okay. I was going to say any questions on that, but the questions are at the end. I don't even know why I said that. That was weird. Okay. So do you track your personal and business expenses? What about your savings? And why is tracking so important? Now, I feel like I'm starting to be redundant here, but having an idea of what is going on with your money is of paramount importance. For example, can you afford to have a team? One of the anxieties around people, if you have not yet hired an assistant or a production partner, is that you're like, I don't know if I can afford it. Well, part of that not knowing is not knowing your numbers. Now, it may be that you look and track your revenue and you go, oh, I actually cannot afford it. But I would be willing to bet there's many of you watching this here in the class today or watching the recorded version that you make plenty of money to hire somebody, but you're just afraid to do it because you don't know where it stands on the money. And you could say that about any of the, remember I think it was in our Who Not How class that we were talking about that instead of thinking of things as expenses, we want to think of them as investments. And that is all part of the same idea around, tracking your money. Do you know what your personal survival number is? So a personal survival number is all of your fixed expenses that you know that you have every single month, right? And the question is, do you know what that number is? And do you have a way of figuring that out? We're going to talk about that in a few minutes on our personal budget screen. What about your survival number for your business? So a lot of us have fixed expenses. Well, probably all of us have fixed expenses. Some of them has more than others, but knowing what that survival number for your business is super critical for you when it comes to doing your planning. The answer, it should be that your survival number times 3 is what you should have in your savings account. So survival number times 3 for your personal and a survival number times 3 for your business. This means that as things get challenging, if there is a period where you go a few months without doing any deals, you're okay. You know that you have this, that's exactly what that number is for. If the number gets depleted, the very first thing you're doing after paying your taxes and other things that are important to be saved for is you're replenishing that survival number so that you know that you don't have that like, oh, I have to make a deal happen this month. That will not help you when it comes to meeting with your clients and what Ninja calls commission breath, right? We don't want to be in a position where we are like, we have to make a deal happen. Yesterday, I was very fortunate. I have a client that's, kind of on the fence. Originally she wanted to sell. Now she's freaking out. And I was in this great position of really being able to advise her, hey, maybe you shouldn't sell right now. Maybe this isn't a great idea. Why can I be that comfortable? Because I have plenty of money in my survival number account that I don't have to, there is no one deal that I need to tell somebody to do. I don't have to think about myself. I can only think about the client. And that's because we have that savings account. Any thoughts on that, Kevin?
Yeah, that you are in a position where people can sense that fear and that desperation of, oh my God, I've got to make this deal. And that is obviously a turnoff for people. And there is something about being secure financially with having your survival money, your reserves in place that allows you to be more comfortable with what you're doing. And ultimately, that's what we're looking for. You want to be at ease in your dealing with clients because that is building confidence and they're going to look to you for, hey, this is somebody I want to work with.
Exactly. It's attractive. Conversely, if you're not paying attention to these things, you can have a false sense of things going well because you have a deal or two happening. And then you take your foot off the pedal of making things happen too. So that's why, again, I know I'm sounding redundant here, but okay. So do you track your personal and business expenses? And this is one that, again, so many people, they just don't want to do it. They get their check, they spend money, and they have no idea what's even working for them or what isn't working for them. And it does, knowing these things helps you keep your financial emotions in check. I think it's, at least me, I know that at different points in my career, I have ridden this emotional roller coaster around having deals, not having deals, having deals, not having deals. And it's stressful, not only for me, but for, whoever's in your family as well, right? Especially if you're the sole provider of income, and having some continuity in what you're doing, both on the behavioral side of lead gen and all the things we talk about with Daily Navigator and staying in front of people. You want to be consistent regardless of what kind of deals are going on, so that you can have that peace of mind, but also with that consistency comes regular deals. Regular deals comes with the ability to then put them on your P&L and keep track of what's going on in your business. So here is a couple of tracking tools for a P&L and a personal budget. Now,
Rick,
right now,
I'm sure that everybody knows what P&L is, but I just want to say, for those that
thank
don't,
you.
it's simply profit and loss. And I'm sure that everybody knows that, but if there's somebody that's watching this video that's not quite sure what P&L is, I just want to make sure that they understand that P&L is just simply profit and loss.
Yeah, and I gotta just move my screen there because I was covering up okay. So this is a pretty simple P&L, right? This is not rocket science stuff here. This is a spreadsheet that we have that kind of breaks down some different expenses that you might have every month. So this happens to be my actual P&L from January 2019. So at the time, remember, I've told you guys before, actually, I was paying almost $3,000 a month for coaching. So there's that line item expense. That's a business expense. I had some advertising in there, break breads, which are, meals and so forth. Anyway, the point is I go through all these kind of what are called what we're calling kind of broad office expenses, right? Total of that was about $5,500 per month. And almost all of those are pretty consistent, right? Here was, at the time, I had an assistant or an employee. Her expense to me that month was about $3,000. Whoops. And I was trying to scroll the screen. And then I had some other miscellaneous expenses, Rotary, office supplies, and so forth. And all of that added up. Here's my medical insurance, my gas for work, auto expenses. So all of those total up about $11,100. So that's my approximate monthly business only expenses. Now there's another sheet that we don't have on here that's called a pay log, but it had all of the deals from that month on there. They totaled up about $70,000. It was 6 deals. My average per unit was $11,500. My total revenue that month was $69,146. Then you go down here to this section 4, where you subtract out your expenses. So here's that $11,106, subtracted out. My taxable income is $58,000. Then I put 25% automatically, which is $14,510, into a savings account for taxes. And my after-tax income for that month was $43,530. So that's all my business stuff. And if you can imagine, if you're keeping track of this every month, it's really going to give you a sense of, where you stand. And there's some months, like if I showed you my February one of this month, this is a good month for me. I didn't have as good a month. And in fact, I had to take money in from savings, and I'll show you that in a second, or where that would go. So you can see up here that the company float balance is that 32,000. So that's the 3 times this number, this 11,000. This was a little bit higher month, but in general, I need about 10,500 a month to run the business at that time. My tax balance at that point was about 30,000. And this cost to acquire is the number of deals divided by my actual expenses. So we want that number to be going lower. And this is all built into the formula. And then my personal expenses that I ran through the business, about $1,600. And then my year to date, because it was January, was 58,040. So I know a little bit of a glazed over there, but it gives you an idea of taking you through and keeping track of all of your business expenses. So we're going to take this number here, 43,500. And if I can get to the next screen, there we go. So then that takes it over to my, so this is my February personal budget. And my total paychecks go right here, 43,530. So that's brought over from the P&L. And this first section here is all of my typical expenses every month at the time. Whoops. Uh-oh. Stop. I got to stop accidentally scrolling there. I apologize. The line 2 is this is my survival number column. So these are my minimum payments for all of my stuff. So my survival number is about 16,330. So that's what I need to have in savings for 3 months in case things go sideways. This third column here is the money that I pay for outside of that that would go towards savings. So like, for example, my minimum payment on my Citi card had a balance that month of $1,500. My minimum payment was $33. I paid $1,000. So that then transfers over here to a savings. It really, actually, it should have been $967 because the minimum payment, but that's not true because I was paying off debt. So that goes directly towards savings. My motorcycle payment at the time was $190. I don't have the motorcycle anymore, side note. And after I sold it, it burned down in somebody's house. So it doesn't exist. Anyway, $500 I paid on my motorcycle rather than the 500. So I put 310 towards savings. The point is, this line here is amount saved for the month. And after I paid everything, I put 25,000 into my savings account. So my savings for the month was 26,000. You want all these numbers to add up to this number. So this number and this number should add up to this number. Is everybody completely bored? It's a rhetorical question, but
no, I think this is the most exciting stuff in the entire world.
Anyway, the point is that this is really not that hard to do, and it might seem like that, but once you've done it a few months, it's very, very freeing to know what's going on and to know exactly where you stand. And there's an incentive there to to put money in savings and to kind of keep track and share this with your significant other of where you actually stand and are you spending money the right way. These are definitely things that I resisted myself, so I totally get if that's where you're at. But having been a person that's resisted it, I've also enjoyed the benefits and the freedom and the peace of mind that's come from actually knowing what's going on with those things. Okay,
it's very empowering as well.
Exactly. Thank you. So, ideal personal spending formula. Now, you may not have one of these, and it's not something that you have to follow hard and fast. But when you take that number, like in that case, it was 43,000 or something. Out of that, this is the formula that you would want to use. And I'm sorry, minus the tax. So this is from the business account. But 10% giving, 20% to savings, and 45% to your everyday expenses. And really, these things are important to keep in mind, minus the taxes, because we already put that in the business. We already had that in the P&L. But having these things in mind as where you can spend your money is so important, rather than, oh, I got a $10,000 check, now I have $10,000 to spend. It's like, no, you don't. You got a $10,000 check. 25% of it needs to go to taxes. 20% should be going to your savings. In a perfect world, if you're in a place where you can be giving and make contributions, 10% should be going to giving, and really only 45% or $4,500 of that $10,000 should be going towards your expenses. And so it's just kind of a mind shift there for a lot of people. It's a mind shift as to how they think about when they, how they think about their money. All right. What are the roadblocks going to be here? Well, for a lot of people, like I've already said too many times, people don't want to talk about money. They want to know about it. And so just that mind shift of I'm willing to at least take a look at this is going to make a big difference and start that program. Just like doing the daily navigator, or just like adding 10 contacts a day, or any of the other things that we've been talking about, this is a practice. It's not something that just happens overnight. It's completely okay to have baby steps. Just tip your toe in the water and work towards something that's a little more substantial. Over a period of time, this will become second nature and totally empowering. So it's being willing to just move forward, even though it's uncomfortable.
It's creating a new habit.
Exactly. Kevin, can you think of any other roadblocks before we get into homework and questions?
Well, I think a lot of it just comes from the fact, and I just remember when I started in the business, I was that person that had not realized. I mean, I knew that I needed to pay quarterly taxes, but I hadn't quite been set up yet. It was my first year. And when I sat down with my CPA to plan my taxes for the next year, it's like, well, how much have you put away? And it's like, oh, I guess I didn't quite follow this. So it's one of those things that newer agents, you need to start right away. But for us that have been in the business, I've been doing this 20 plus years. It's something that just needs to become habit, and it just sets everything free. And it's tough to get started, but once you start that habit going, you're able to look at real numbers. It just kind of changes the way that you approach money coming in and money going out.
Exactly. Okay, so homework for today is just be purposeful and make a decision if you have not. And forgive me for the people that are already doing this, that are totally tuned into money. This homework won't apply to you because you've already made the decision. But for those of you who haven't, make a decision about money. And what I mean by that is the decision should be, I'm going to empower myself with more information. I'm going to start keeping track of my money and paying attention to it. Even if it's uncomfortable, I'm going to do it. So make that decision. Homework for your business, figure out what your survival numbers are. So if you don't know what those are, take the time to write down all of your expenses, personal, and all of your expenses for business, and then start your own P&L. It does not have to be as detailed as the one that I did. Next quarter, Kevin and I will roll out the ones that we will hand out to you guys that are formulaic within those, similar to the ones that we just showed you, so that you can have just categories to plug in. But in the meantime, have a baseline. Here's how much income I have. Here's how much expenses I have. It doesn't have to be all complicated, but just gives you an idea of what your actual revenue looks like. Everybody's focused on GCI. Well, and which is gross commission income. But that really doesn't tell the story. All that tells you is, how much revenue you created. But if you don't figure in the expenses of that, I was on a coaching call, 4 or 5 years ago with a young lady from Tennessee, and we both had similar GCI. It was right around, I'm trying to think what our numbers were. Somewhere around 400, 450 GCI, something like that. So we had basically the same numbers. But my P&L was at 10,000 a month-ish expenses, and hers was 20,000. So she made half as much money as I did with the same amount of GCI, and because she paid for a lot of internet ads. So the point is that the GCI is certainly an indicator, but really want to know is how much are you paying taxes on? And that's where you get from having that P&L. Okay, that's the class on money. I'm so glad that you guys hung in there and showed up. I know this isn't at the top of everybody's list. And we're going to open it up now for questions.